Alright, so hello to anybody watching. I bought this laptop and I wanted to make a video about a lot of confusing things I came across with this laptop. You know, the things I expected, things I did, and all the research I did a ton of research on this laptop. And because it's super hard to find info about this, because, you know, I'm in the United States, I probably wasn't even the intended market for this laptop, or at least not the original intended market. So, like, I'm pretty sure India or China basically get laptop releases first because, I mean, let's face it, there's like a 1.3 billion people in India and even more in China. And of course, they're going to get laptop releases basically first. Not only is that is in India, laptops I have to imagine are pretty popular because they get all the first models first. So like we didn't even get the Ryzen laptops in the United States along with the Intel ones until later. Like I bought an Intel one before I bought an AMD one, and I had to go through this whole thing with Dell trying to return the first laptop. Basically, I bought two laptops at the same time, and they were both in postage. It was ridiculous, and I had to actually take delivery of the first Intel one that I wanted to cancel, and it took like a week and a half to get here. But it said it was going to take a month to get here, and I realized that isn't Dell's fault. But what Dell's fault is their customer service in regards to returns is ridiculous. Because what I have to imagine is all these new releases with laptops or products otherwise, basically they have to come direct from wherever they're being made in China or Taiwan or wherever they have these made, and basically come direct to you. They don't stock them in the United States like we think. However, the AMD ones were. So the Intel one, the shipping time is like a month, and I was okay with that. But then this one popped up and it was like $1,200, and I was like, oh, I kind of just want that one because this one has like all of the options, and it was almost the same price, a little bit more. So I got this one, and this one only took a week to get here. But seriously, for God's sake, if you're gonna buy a laptop from any of these companies, I wasn't biased. I talked to Acer. I talked to basically everybody's customer support. I talked to Acer. I talked to Lenovo. I talked to HP. I talked to Dell, and most of the questions I was asking them and dealing with customer support was trying to find laptops that actually had Thunderbolt 3. Obviously, the Intel ones have that, but as far as I could tell, this one, the G15 Intel one, was the only true like next gen laptop that had Thunderbolt on it from Intel. Like the Acer Nitro 5 or whatever, I'm pretty sure I talked to them, doesn't have Thunderbolt. The HP Omen doesn't have Thunderbolt. All right, the Lenovo Legion 5, not the Pro version, doesn't have Thunderbolt. And honestly, the Legion 5 Pro is like seriously like $600 more than this in the United States, and it's like the same specifications or less. And now in the United States, you can get this laptop with a better Intel CPU. They finally got 11th Gen ones into these laptops, as where before the one I ordered only had a 10th Gen i7 in it. So that was kind of weird. So like I said, really, really, really hard to find details about laptops these days because I was talking with Dell customer support, and seriously, I had to ask like 4 different times about all sorts of things about Thunderbolt and display outputs as far as G-Sync goes. We'll get to that, all right? There's some interesting things about G-Sync and adaptive sync with this laptop that we will get to. And seriously, 3 people through Dell's site, two of them gave me two of them agreed with each other. One gave a completely different answer, and then rebutted when I asked him about, like, could you please talk to some engineers with me? And he got me, I think, the right answer, but I was still unsure, so I reached out to them on Twitter. I don't even have Twitter. I had to, like, make an account because I was so stressed out. So I made an account of Twitter and asked them, and why? It's so difficult when they're advertising. Like, this laptop on the website doesn't even have a USB-C port on the back in the pictures and advertising. What? And then also there's like two distinct different product details between like the product documentation PDF and the specifications on the web page that say that this has like HDMI 2.0B or HDMI 2.1, or it'll just say HDMI and you have to figure it out on your own. It's ridiculous. So in this video, I'm going to try and clear that up, because trying to find that information through forums is just impossible, because it seems like if you like, I tried looking this stuff up, and you'll go on like Reddit's forum, and especially since this is such a new product, you won't find any information about stuff on the G15. So all I found was stuff on like the G5, and even on forums, people weren't agreeing with each other. It was what a nightmare. So, anyways, like I said, this is a Ryzen one. It's the top of the line one you can buy, I'm pretty sure. So it's got the RTX 3060 full wattage unit. So for clarification, the AMD one does have a higher wattage one than the Intel one. I'm not sure about the 11th gen that they came out with, but the Ryzen ones have like 115 watts max is basically what they actually go to. They might advertise 125. I don't see that in my overlays. I only see in games like 115 or so max, which is still solid, like really good. So this has the 8-core Ryzen 5800H, which is fantastic. It's more powerful than the Intel one if you just want to save yourself some trouble right there. The 11th gen Intel ones that they just came out with, it seems like those are like maybe 4 to 5% more powerful than the CPU in this one. You know, whatever. So, boy, where to start? Battery life. The battery life on this laptop sucked when I get it out of the box. Like, seriously, like 2 hours was the most I could get. And that's after a seriously, like a fresh ISO reinstall of Windows 10, okay? This is full updates. I updated all the drivers, got all the drivers for like Ethernet and everything straight from Intel. It's all up to date. This laptop seriously brand new. It's like 2 weeks old for me. 2 hours battery life was the best I could do. And if you look that problem up on the internet, it seems a lot of people have this problem. Hell, new XPS like 15s, it seems these days, comes up a lot. And they're like, why is this laptop only getting 2 hours battery life? Well, I don't know why for everybody, but at least for this laptop, I reached out to NVIDIA customer support, and I was actually able to get some answers, all right? So, boy, if we go into NVIDIA GeForce Experience here, bring that up, all right, and then we go into settings. Every setting here you're going to want to turn off if you're on battery. In-game overlay in particular, what a battery sucker. Seriously, this saved me like 2 hours of battery just turning that off. And there was another sort of interesting thing. If we turn on in-game overlay, and I've talked to NVIDIA about this already through just sort of the customer service. I didn't even know if they were going to really help me, because this is a laptop, and you know, everybody's laptop is different. It's not like I'm talking to them about a graphics card problem, right? So I wanted to know why it's getting such bad battery life, because if we go into performance here, all right, and this all loads in, and it has GPU information like clock speed, GPU power, memory clock, fan speed, temp. Why is it running at full clock speed? It's sitting here doing nothing. And it bounces between like 10 and 25 watts. And most times it'll just stay around 20 watts at full clock speed, and it'll never come down. I swear, I'm not running anything in the background that's like asking of full GPU clock. I've tried everything. No, disabling the discrete graphics card in device manager doesn't work. If anything, that saps the battery even more. I can't explain why. Just trust me. I've looked through so many forums trying to figure this stuff out. Okay, and also trying to go into control panel and choose which graphics controller is doing all of the work, either integrated or dedicated, or what the physics settings are. Doesn't matter. It does not affect this. This is running at 0% load, and it's at full clock speed consuming 20 watts. There's no reason it should be doing that. However, there was a couple times where it would bounce down to like 210 megahertz on the GPU clock, and it would be sitting around like 5 to 10 watts. Okay, that's way more reasonable, but I can't explain how when it does that. Some restarts it'll do that, some it doesn't, and then sometimes it'll bounce between those two. There's no rhyme or reason for it. All right, you can see I have enable automatic tuning here, which is a experimental feature. This doesn't affect anything, so I have that turned on because this laptop replaced my desktop, which is now mining crypto in the corner. But this replaced my desktop, so it stays plugged in basically all the time. And as you can see, it's not plugged in right now. It's not plugged into USB-C or anything. So usually I have this turned on when I'm not on battery life, just for max performance. But I'm keeping it on here. Trust me, it really doesn't matter for what I'm trying to explain here. So I reached out to them like, why is this running at full clock speed and there's no way to change it? Like what setting is causing it to do that? And if I go into my email, what he told me to try was going into NVIDIA control panel and selecting a couple settings. So like we see here, super nice guy, he said, go into NVIDIA control panel, manage 3D settings, global settings, and then there's a whole list with a whole bunch of settings and drop downs. Go to power management mode, set it to normal. Triple optimization, set to off. Triple buffering, set to off. Vertical sync, set to off. And then on top of that, something he didn't say, but I've seen helps. And turn your refresh rate down to 60 hertz from 120 or 165 or whatever your screen is. And seriously, man, I can't thank this guy enough. I haven't gotten back to him yet because I'm just testing this out on battery life now. This is my first time actually testing it, and I'm finally getting like reasonable battery life. Like it would, I was at 80% just a little bit ago, and it was saying like 7 or 6 hours, and I'm at what 50% brightness. So you know that's way more in line with what I expected from getting like 2 hours before, and obviously it's bounced around a bit because I've been digging around in GeForce Experience, and I'm pretty sure I have the overlay on, don't I? Let's double check here. I also have a AMD app running, which might be draining the battery as well, especially since there's probably conflicting drivers. But I have that installed for a very particular reason, which I'll get to. But I've been able to save a ton of battery life doing that. So now it says I'm at 74% at basically 3 hours. I can deal with that, you know? Like, it'll probably go up too. I think I've been digging around in like NVIDIA settings and stuff, and that really spikes up the GPU or does some setting that really the battery does not like. So as soon as we get going here with some other stuff, maybe it'll refresh and show a bit more battery life. But let's get into another thing, which is compatibility with adaptive sync or G-Sync monitors externally, okay? Because that was a big thing, because I was switching from desktop. So I had a 1070 Ti, and I was running this ViewSonic adaptive sync 1440 high refresh monitor. It's IPS. And I was using it for games and work and stuff. And I wanted to know if I was going to get a laptop that would be able to run adaptive sync out of like whatever ports it had. Now, if you look on the specifications, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure a couple reviewers say this. But again, laptops are so all over the map because laptop GPUs, they're just not the same as desktop GPUs. Obviously, they could have completely different outputs as far as like DisplayPort or HDMI or mini DisplayPort, all this stuff. So like RTX graphics cards come with, or at least the 30 series, at least I know for sure, comes with HDMI 2.1 stock out of the graphics cards, which is able to do G-Sync. Any other thing that's not 2.1, 2.0, for instance, can't run G-Sync. It won't, okay? G-Sync is a technology that was never rooted in anything other than DisplayPort, and it's only just now that they finally got on board running it over HDMI. And like I said, it's only HDMI 2.1. So of course the question is, does this laptop have HDMI 2.1 to run G-Sync out of it? Well, I tested it. I bought a HDMI to DisplayPort cable, and I plugged it in. This monitor here has an DisplayPort 1.2, which is its kind of native input for adaptive sync. And I tried it, and it didn't work. And then I tried an HDMI cable because this monitor also has a HDMI 2.0 input, which it can run adaptive sync through. So of course, if it's running the adaptive sync out of this laptop, out of 2.1, it should be able to plumb into this adaptive sync one. Granted, this isn't a G-Sync one, this is a Freesync monitor. So I thought the flexibility as far as compatibility would be a bit better. Nah, didn't work. It didn't work with the DisplayPort one either. It just didn't work. I didn't fuss around with it too much because it wouldn't even recognize it as an input. It wouldn't even turn on. So the solution to that was to buy a mini DisplayPort, which is the USB-C version, to full-size DisplayPort, and I tried that, and it worked. So what I was able to do was run from the Discrete card full resolution 1440p at 144 hertz with G-Sync on. And what's really weird quirk about laptops I've seen, for some reason there's not a lot of info on it, but it's reality, is seriously there's some sort of bug in the software within GeForce control panel or NVIDIA control panel, where if you plug in a monitor input into a laptop, I can't explain it, but settings just disappear once you unplug it. They disappear forever. So if you'll notice, if I go into control panel here, takes a minute to load, you'll notice I'm missing settings. Like, all I have is 3D settings. There should be a whole list of stuff here. Nah, it's gone. So you don't get like G-Sync settings or anything like that. It's just gone. And it won't be there until you plug in an external monitor. So, like I said, plugged in that cable, went through the Discrete card. There's a lot of controversy on whether or not laptops' outputs will go through the Discrete graphics card or the integrated one on the CPU. This one, it doesn't matter. It will go through the Discrete one, which is great. I'm pretty sure in Experience, GeForce Experience, this laptop even shows up as VR capable, which is really surprising because I thought that sort of stuff would have been the differentiating factor between this model and something like the more expensive Alienware version. But anyways, so that was kind of cool. So I'm going to plug that in. Why not? I'm just going to show you that it does indeed work. Alright, so I got the monitor plugged in and running here. Let me just switch it so it's displaying on both. If we go into control panel again, you can see all of my settings are back. So I've got display and I have a G-Sync setting. So I can enable G-Sync and it is active right now. I've played games with it on. Trust me, it is working correctly. It looks super smooth. So yeah, that's great. But I want to discuss one more quirk about this laptop, which isn't advertised. Please don't quote me on this. But like I said earlier in the video, I said early in the video that I have some AMD software installed, and right now I have a version of AMD Catalyst installed, and I did have their entire suite installed earlier, which is how I found this out. Alright, so now we're in AMD Catalyst Control Center. Like I said, this was the same as on their entire suite. I can't remember the name of that software, but it was like their GeForce Experiencer, essentially the same thing. The setting does also show up. There is an AMD Freesync setting for this display. Oh, of course my camera sucks that bad. So I don't know if this is truly an AMD FreeSync display or not. But you know, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm at the 60 hertz setting. And I've never noticed tearing with this monitor ever. It's just it's incredibly smooth. Now I haven't dove into games or anything like that to support this claim, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is compatible. Of course, it does not show up in GeForce. If you try and look in GeForce, there's no settings in the control panel for G-Sync. This isn't a G-Sync ready display or anything. It's not advertised like that, like I think the Alienwares are. But it does show up in AMD FreeSync, or AMD's technology. So I don't know. That's maybe a question for somebody a bit more advanced. I don't really care. You know, it's a 165 hertz display. You know, it's already pretty damn smooth, and its color and picture is just so well. And the type of games I play, I don't really max out this computer anyway. The most demanding game I've played on this laptop was, I think, MechWarrior 5, which is actually an RTX game where it does ray tracing and all that. And honestly, I turned that on, and it just like glitched out the textures. So yeah, that's just kind of my thoughts on this laptop. A lot of questions. I hope I answered some people's questions and just saved some people some time. There's not a lot of videos about this or information in general, obviously. It's, you know, better. There's reviewers who did way better full reviews of this laptop. This isn't really supposed to be that. It's just supposed to be. I know there's people who need certain questions asked and answered that just don't have the time or the stress. They don't need the stress of trying to figure it out between Dell's customer support and browsing the internet and trying to find a billion unrelated articles. You know. So drop some questions below. Maybe I'll try some things for some different people. You know, if anybody has any other questions, just to help them. So, anyways, let me know what you think, and I'll catch you next time.